So hello everyone, thank you for the invitation. So today I will talk about modeling of complex dynamical networks and how we can pass from agent-based to continuum formulations. So it is also for the students of my project here at SEMRAX, because you will see it's the basis of the project you are working on. So first, let me tell you the whole story of the different projects I will talk about today. So we started to study during my PhD adipose tissues with the biologists from the Stroma Lab in Toulouse. So what we looked at is images like this. So this is the image of a whole adipose tissue extracted from a healthy mouse. And as we can see here, it's at the macroscopic level because we see the whole tissue. And if we zoom in the structures, we can reach the microscopic level, so the level of micrometer, where we can see the cells, the adipocytes, for instance, here in red, that are structured into this, what we call lobules, that are the structures of cells inside a line fiber network that is in blue around. So the whole goal of the project was to understand which mechanisms can lead to such a formation from nothing, basically. So this is what we call morphogenesis for biological tissue. So, of course, when you want to study a biological system, you have a huge complexity because you have a lot of agents, a lot of type of interactions, and a lot of different scales. So what is usually done is to start from agent-based formulation because they offer a very nice precision of modeling and a link to experimental data. And these are types of model, as most of you know, that represent each agent as an individual agent. So, for instance, cells as 2D spheres, fibers as segments, connected segments. But as a drawback, they are very computationally challenging because you have at least number of equations, that is the number of agents. And also, usually we don't have a theoretical framework to link the solutions to some parameters. So we have to analyze the system by doing numerical simulation, and this is very expensive. So what is preferred when you study the macroscopic level, when you have billions of individuals, is PDEs, where here you describe mean variables such as densities, mean orientation, etc. So as an advantage, they are computationally efficient, and you have usually a mathematical framework that you don't have at the agent-based formulation. But as a drawback, you lose the information at the agent scale, because you work on mean variables, so you lose the information of the position of each particle. So what we did in the first step was to derive a PDE from an agent-based formulation. So during my PhD, we did it for the fiber network, and we obtained a set of equations that are actually quite complex, so not that computationally efficient, but it was the first way to explain to describe the system at the macroscopic level. I will not talk about this particular model here today. I will talk about a simplified model just for the cells here to just show you how we can derive a macroscopic model from a microscopic one. So let's consider, we will consider just complex dynamical networks. It will be applied to cells that interact between each other, but it can be applied to a lot of other systems, such that airline routes or social networks, or also polymers. And so here is a set of references for the microscopic model, continuum model, also micro to macro approaches. So let me present you the agent-based model that will be the starting point of the derivation. So it is a simple toy model where each cell is represented as a 2D sphere of center xi and radius and detection radius r. And what we consider as a biological phenomena is that each cell can link or unlink randomly with its neighbor contained in the ball centered in their center and in the detection radius r. So when they link, they create a spring that have an equilibrium length L0 here. And so you have this attraction repulsion with the linked neighbors. So this is dynamical in time. This the linking and unlinking is are Poisson processes of frequencies that are parameters of the model, and the only mechanical action we have is the spring force. We also consider Brownian motion because in most of the biological system you have a bit of motion here. So with such a simple model, then we can write the equation of the motion in time. So we say that the cells will move towards the minimization of mechanical equilibrium that is described by this linked between the particles plus a Brownian motion of intensity d. So we consider Hookean spring as we will see, which is simpler for the analysis later. So now what we want to do from the microscopic model is to pass to the macroscopic limit. And what is usually done is two limits. So the first one is the limit of large number of individuals, and the second one is a rescaling, so that we zoom out and then we reach the macroscopic model. So for the first limit, what we need is distribution functions that will describe the probability of finding a particle center at a point x and at time t. But because we have also these links between the particles, then we also need two other distribution functions. The distribution function gk that describes the probability of finding a particle in x1, a particle in x2, which are linked at time t. Then, to model the creation and suppression of link, we also need the density distribution of pairs of particles, probability of finding a particle in x1, one in x2, but not necessarily linked. This is this function h. So if we measure this distribution against test function, then we have this expression. And so we see if we derive in time this expression, then we will make appear the gradient of this test function and the derivative in time of the center. And then at this point, we can plug in the microscopic model here. So this is basically very formally what we do. And in the limit, then we can pass to the limit of large number of individual and large number of links. So if we do some assumptions on, so this is the probability of linking and probability of unlinking with the particles. If we suppose that the number of links over the number of particles scales as a parameter psi, then we can show that the kinetic model, so the microscopic limit in the limit of microscopic model in the limit of large number of individual, writes as this. So we have a first equation that describes the motion of individual particles as a diffusion term because of the Brownian motion, and then an interaction term that is a convolution actually between actually, no, it's not a convolution for the moment, but it will be later. So it is acting on the set of linked particles. So this is the distribution G with the gradient of the interaction potential V, that is the link force. So we can show that we have a system of two equations, one describing also the pairs of linked particles that have actually the same, very same type of equation. And here you have a source term that describes the probability of creating new links on this function h of pairs of particles not necessarily linked, and of deleting links nu d. So we see that the system here is not closed at this point because we have also to describe the evolution of H. So if we do the hypothesis of propagation of chaos, then we can show that this H writes as the product of two F functions, and in this case the system is closed. So now we want to pass from the kinetic model that we had to the macroscopic limit. So what we do is we introduce a small parameter epsilon that rescales the space and time as this, and then we have to do some hypothesis on the model parameters. How do they scale? So what we suppose, this is really choices. We suppose that the force between linked particles is small, the random motion is of order 1, and the detection distance is large. But actually this is not very important. The most important hypothesis that we do to be able to pass to the limit is to say that the probability of linking and unlinking, the frequencies of linking and unlinking are very large. They would be instantaneous in time in the limit. So this is not very biologically relevant, but actually it enables us to do this limit quite simply. So what we show is that, so if we assume propagation of chaos, say that H is the product of 2F, under the previous scaling assumptions, then at the limit epsilon goes to 0, well, the system of two equations become just one equation that describes the evolution of the individual particles as a diffusion plus a convolution here to express the action of the links between the pairs of particles. And now, because of this hypothesis, and in this limit, we can show that the linked pair of particles are also a product of the two functions multiplied by the probability of the frequencies of linking over unlinking here. So this is our macroscopic model, and what is nice about it is that we can actually do some analysis here to detect phase transition. And this is the second part of what I wanted to say. So we start from this macroscopic model that we obtain very formally to the limit. So we have two things to do. First, do a theoretical analysis, and then to compare numerically that this formal limit is indeed a correct limit of the microscopic model. So we did it with numerical simulation. We'll show it later. So very nicely, what we do is that we take the solution and we linearize around the constant steady state. So where you just have particles everywhere here. So this is the rho star. And what we want to study is if the rho star, the homogeneous steady state, is a stable state or not. And that means that if it's not stable, that would mean that we have aggregated states. Okay. So we linearize the system, and then we can apply a Fourier transform. And so we show that it writes like this. So if this term is positive, then we would have an stability of steady state. And what we can show is that the two parameters that really describe the aggregation capacity of the system or the homogeneous state is this density D and the distance and the size of the spring, actually, this parameter L. So just basically, if we have a large density, of course, it tends to homogeneous thing because things will move everywhere, and you would have a homogeneous steady state. So as big, so if D increases, then we are more probably stable. And also the size of the spring, if it's larger, then the cells can be actually everywhere. And if it's a small spring, then you have more probability to create local aggregates of cells. This is what we can read here on this diagram. But so this is this unstable and stable case is done by the linear stability analysis, but we can do better by doing nonlinear analysis. We can even characterize the phase transition. Means, for instance, if we fix a value of L and then we increase the coefficient, the diffusion, so we would be first unstable, and then we pass the stability threshold. So here, that means we have aggregates, and if we increase diffusion, then we have homogeneous. But what we can show is that by doing an analysis very close to the transition phase, that it's a subcritical transition. It means that very close you would have a very aggregated structure, and for a critical value of D, then directly you would be homogeneous. But for some parameters here, if L is bigger, then the transition would be supercritical. That means that your aggregate will increase until becoming homogeneous. So it's a continuous transition here. And this we can directly compute it on the macroscopic model. We don't need to do simulations. But of course, to compare micro and macro model, because the derivation is formal, then we did some numerical simulation. For instance, to see if we had this supercritical and subcritical transitions on the numerical simulation. So what we did, so this the continuous line are the solution of the macroscopic model, and with colors. With colors, we have the solutions of the microscopic model. So as you see here, we fix all the parameters except for D that we increase. And for this simulation, we put the L as 0.3, where we expect a subcritical transition. And for this simulation, we put L, at 0.47. I mean, we expect a supercritical transition. So here, what I show here is the Q is a quantification of the aggregated structures. As Q increase, then you have aggregates, and when Q tends to 0, you are homogeneous. And so what we can see is that indeed we are subcritical here for this value, even for the micro model, and supercritical here. So of course the microscopic simulation depend on the value of epsilon, because the macroscopic model is in the limit epsilon goes to 0. So if we do numerical simulations with a large epsilon here, we can be far from the description of the macro model, but we can show also that if epsilon goes to 0, then we get closer to the macroscopic solution. So this was a way of validating actually the derivation. Indeed, the macroscopic model seems to be a good limit of the microscopic dynamic. Also, we can show that we have a very good agreement in time. So if we represent, for instance, we did here a simulation in 1D. So if we represent in time the evolution of the density of particles, so here would be the space here. We start with a homogeneous state, then we let the system evolve. And for parameters where you have aggregation, then you can see in time that the system converges to this aggregated state. And the continuous line are the macroscopic model, and the dashed, not dashed, but the other one are the microscopic model. And as we can see, the final state, the steady state, is in very good agreement for all these values. But what we can observe is that the microscopic model converges faster towards the steady state than the macroscopic model. We explain that by hand by saying that the microscopic model, here it's done for epsilon equals 0 if we want, so it's not a problem of epsilon here. But we think that it's because the microscopic model features a finite number of individuals, while the macroscopic limit is considers infinite number of individuals. So this is how we explain maybe this delay between the two formulations here. So, fair enough, I will not talk about the analysis for the 2D case, but actually we can do also in 2D, and we have also this supercritical and subcritical transitions in 2D. But now let me jump to the first conclusions and then the extension of this work. So what we did here was a formal derivation of a simplified model for dynamical network. As you can see, it's a very simple model actually. It's a toy model. You just link to the neighbors, and actually just with this interaction, then you can show that you have aggregation or not, depending on the value of the model parameters. So it is an interesting model because it's not completely clear. It was not completely clear, actually, the comportment of the model. So what we would want to do in the long term would be a rigorous derivation of the macroscopic model, but for the moment we stay formal. And also, the very interesting case would be to consider that we have non-instantaneous linking and linking of the particles. Because so this hypothesis actually enables us to have a mean field limit if we want, but what it implies also to do this hypothesis is that we lose the information. Actually, we lose a lot of information between the action of these links on the network. Because if we do this hypothesis, it's the same as considering that each particle interacts with all of their neighbors in the ball of radius r. So it's like we lose a bit what we wanted to do with these springs. So this would be very interesting things to do. So what we did afterwards with this model was to actually the biologist came to us and said, okay, maybe we could use this model to explain segregation in biological systems. So we started a new project with Anaïs Kwong from the Francis Crick Institute, where here they study systems with two different species of particles that repulse each other, actually repulse and attract, but actually what they wanted to show in their study is that the aggregation capacity of the system is mainly due to repulsion between the particles. You don't need to have attraction to have this. And this was the hypothesis of the biologist. So the nice thing about our model is that we can have a quantification of the aggregation as function of the model parameters, and this is why they came to us. So what we did was to consider the same model but adding a new species of particle. So now we will have the exact same model but with particles of type A and particles of type B. So we still have the creation of links between particles. So now we have interspecies links, AB, and intraspecies links, AA and or BB. Then we consider still Brownian motion here. And it's exactly the same model, but with two species now. So we have the same equation here, and the spring interactions here would have a part that is interspecies repulsion and interspecies repulsion here with AB and intraspecies repulsion here. So as you see, it's the exact same model, and we can do the same formal limit here to obtain the macroscopic limit. And what we obtain under the same hypothesis, like doing the exact same thing that we did for one species, is that we have, so as expected, we have the same type of equation. We have the evolution of the particles of species S would be A or B, that would diffuse in the system with the parameter D. And then that would interact with the particles of the same species with the potential phi SS and the particles of the other species here with the springs phi ST. So fair enough, now we can do the same with the macroscopic system here of two equations. We can do also a Fourier analysis to see if the particles aggregate or if we are homogeneous. And so the only difference here is that we have a system of equations, so we have a matrix. So we just have to study the sign of the eigenvalues of this matrix here. And what we can show, so here to be with the biologist, we consider that the springs are only repulsive. And how we do it? We say that the radius of detection is exactly the length of the springs. It means that as long as the particles detect each other, then the spring would be too compressed. So that means we consider only repulsion here. So let me pass on the details here. What we can show actually is that the eigenvalues write like this during the Fourier analysis on the linearized system, and what we can show here is that this is negative, and the only way the larger eigenvalue would be positive is if this term is large enough. So what does it mean? It means that the interspecies repulsion, because it's terms AB and BA here, must be strong enough to overcome diffusion and to overcome intraspecies repulsion, so that we have aggregation. So the main conclusion of this model is that the interspecies repulsion is the parameters that really says if you will aggregate or not. So this is, we can quantify it even more. We can represent the eigenvalue as function of this parameter S, that would be the intensity of the interspecies repulsion. And what we can show also with this model, with the analysis, is that the value of the eigenvalue, the larger eigenvalue here, as function of the Fourier parameter here would reach a maximum, and the value of Z for which the maximum is reached increases when we increase the interspecies repulsion. Which means, what we say is that the size of the aggregated patterns is inversely proportional to this parameter Z star. That means the one when we are maximal. That means that if we increase interspecies repulsion, then the aggregated patterns would decrease in size. They would be smaller. So this is basically what we can say with the stability analysis. So of course what we did afterwards was numerical simulation, and in this case what is nice is that we can compare formally with the biological experiments. So what we have here, for instance, when two species repulse in the same way with the same force, so that like this, of course you have no reason to aggregate because you are the same particles here. So what we see, we study two types of system. One where we start from homogeneous case, random distribution here at the beginning, and one where we put cells, green cells in a part of the domain and red cells here. And what we would be interested in this case here is how the front evolve here, because the biologists also are interested in the segregation ability of the system. So if you have two separated species, will they stay separated or would you have intermingling here? So if we have basically the two particle types are the same, then of course you have intermingling. But if now, in this situation, it's quite the reverse. So you have the family A that is in red here, that would repulse each other more than the family B does, and also that would repulse way stronger the family B than the family A. So with these two types of system, what we can see, starting from a random initial condition, then you have aggregated patterns of green cells that are compressed by the red cells. And here, when you you look at the front, you observe a compression of the family of the green family by the red family. And this is actually what the biologists observed also in their model. So what we did afterwards was to study a huge range of parameters to see if indeed the simulation revealed the same thing as the stability analysis, and also if we can compare with the biologists. Because so what they can do in biology is to play on the repulsion of one family towards the other, and so they have exactly the same conclusion in the biology. They observe that if one family push more the other one, then the aggregated pattern decrease in size in the same way as we observe in the microscopic simulation. And for some parameters value, what we observe is maze-like formation like this. So I think I will end here for the talk. So we have a good correspondence between the microscopic and the macroscopic dynamic, of course, for some values of parameters that are the hypothesis actually that lead to the derivation. So what we would want, actually the basis of the project here was to add cell death or birth, to study other systems where cells can reproduce actually and can die, because in this system the cells are static actually. And in a mathematical viewpoint, so what we would want to do is rigorous derivation of the macro model, of course, as I said before, and still I want to emphasize also on this, on the need to have non-instantaneous linking and linking to be more closer to the biology. Thank you for your attention.